Hello, today I'm going to make a video to show you how you can use Google Sheets to make a table and a graph that you can use in your science fair presentation. I'm going to do a couple examples here of how to do this. Now, first thing I want to do, I'm going to make up a scenario and make a table of data. Obviously, you're going to want to use the data from your experiment. But let's say we did an experiment where somebody was changing the temperature of a magnet to see how it affected its strength. Their question was maybe, how does the temperature of a magnet affect its strength? And so what we're going to want to do here is we're just going to want to set up a table where I can record the data or write down my data. And so notice here I'm giving titles to every column and row, and I want to be as specific as possible. So what I've done, I have columns titled trial 1, trial 2, trial 3. Then I'm going to average the number of paper clips picked up. Here I have the magnet temperature, which is hot, cold, room temperature, and hot. Now I'm going to show you how we can merge cells to make this look a little nicer. So this paper clip picks up here. I'm going to highlight that. I want all these cells, instead of being 4 different cells, I want them to be one cell. If I hit merge cells, it makes all of these just one cell. And then I can get that in the center by just hitting the center here. And this is going to show that number of paper clips picked up refers to trial 1, trial 2, trial 3, and the average. Okay, now I'm also going to want to merge the magnet temperature here, just because I just didn't want that like box just by itself up there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight everything where my table should be. And I'm going to click here. This is borders. And I'm going to choose this all borders. It puts a border around everything. Now, while everything is still highlighted, I'm going to come over here to horizontal alignment. And I'm going to choose center. And that makes everything nice and centered. All right. And this one here, if I really wanted to be fancy, I could vertically align this and put this in the center. It looks a little nicer. All right. Well, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to enter some data. So I'm just going to make up some numbers here. Obviously, you will be using data from your experiment, not just made up numbers. And okay. Now, if you ever need to average something, I'll show you another little trick. If you just click equals average, do parentheses, and you select the numbers you want to average, we'll average out for you. Okay, you can also just do that by hand. I'm also going to want to have less decimal points here. Let's round that down to 1 decimal place. Okay, now here's my table. This is a really nice looking table. I'm going to take this table. I'm going to highlight everything. I'm going to do Control C or Edit Copy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to my science fair presentation. I'm going to go to the results section. And I'm probably going to need more than one page for the results. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this. All right. And now I'm just going to get rid of all of this. I'm going to duplicate this again so I don't lose it. But I want to actually get rid of all of these instructions. And remember, I have my table copied. Well, now all I have to do is edit, paste. You want it not to link, so do paste unlinked. And there's my table. All right, now all I got to do, obviously that's a little small, so let me drag it here, make it bigger, highlight everything, and I'm going to increase the font so it's easier to read, maybe like 18. Maybe I could go a little higher, maybe 20. All right, that's pretty good. Now this video is about to run up, so I'm going to need to pause here for a second, and then we'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. And the last thing I wanted to show you here is you don't have to make the table necessarily in Google Sheets. You can also make a table directly in um, Google Slides. So I'm going to show you that. All you have to do is insert table and you choose the size you want. You choose if I want a 4x4 or a 5x4, and it's just going to give you your table like this, and then you can type in your table here to make it bigger, to make the font bigger as well. Okay. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you though is how to make a graph. Okay. Now, when I make a graph, I'm going to come back to this data. I really don't need to use all the trials necessarily in my graph. I'm going to make a graph just showing the average number of paper clips picked up. All right, so I'm going to come off here. I'm going to make another little table. And this time, this table is not one I'm going to put in my slides, so I don't need to make it look quite so pretty. I'm going to make magnet temperature. I'm still going to label my rows and columns. That will make the graph a little bit easier when it makes it. And I'm going to call this still trial 1. No, I'm not going to do trial. I'm just going to do average number of paper clips picked up. Okay, and I can make that bigger, but doesn't really matter because I'm not actually putting it in a presentation. And now I'm just going to type the averages here. So it was 30.3, 16, and 7.3. All right, now here's my data. I got it in another little table here. And I'm just going to highlight everything. And I'm going to go to Insert Chart. And it's going to choose what it thinks is the best type of chart. I want a bar graph, which is what it gave me. So if I wanted to change, look, it gave me a column chart. I can click on suggested, and it's going to give me some other suggestions here. I believe column chart or bar graph is the best here. Also, since I labeled my rows or my columns here, notice here it has magnet temperature under the x-axis and average number of paper clips picked up on the y-axis. Okay. It has my title here, which it's average number of paper clips picked up versus magnet temperature, and that's an appropriate title. If I wanted to change the title, I can just go to Edit Chart, go to Customize, go to Chart and Axis Title, and I can change this title to whatever I want it to be. One thing I should do, because it doesn't look good if it's not centered, is come down here and center my title. Much better. Okay, I can also change the horizontal axis title. If I don't want it to say magnet temperature, I can change that. I can change the vertical axis title if I don't want it to say average number of paper clips picked up, but I'm happy with what it says. All right, now this whole graph, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on it. I'm going to do Control C, or I could click on it and do Edit Copy, or I could right click and copy. Actually, I'm not seeing that, so I could either do Control C or Edit Copy. Anyhow, I've got it copied. Go back to my presentation. I have a nice blank slide here, and I'm just going to do Control V to paste unlinked. Link means if you change something in your spreadsheet, it will change on here, but we don't want it linked. And there we go. There's my graph. So I am done with my results section. I have a table and I have a graph. Okay, but I'm going to show you, this was a bar graph. I want to show you how to make one more type of graph. I'm going to do another scenario that would make more sense for a line graph. All right, I'm back here in Google Sheets. I'm going to go to a new sheet. If I can, I'm going to go to a new sheet here. And I'm going to Yep, if I have a new sheet. So I'm gonna do a new scenario. So let's say I wanted to know how much water had evaporated. I'm just want to see what type of water evaporates the most quickly. So I have salt water and I have fresh water or tap water. And maybe I have a third type. Maybe I have mineral water. Okay, and I'm going to show the amount of water that evaporates each day. So let's say I have day 1, day 2, day 3. Maybe I did this for 5 days. Okay, I'm keeping track of the total amount of water that has evaporated. Okay, so again, I'm going to make up some data. So this is the total amount of water that's evaporated. Now, one thing when you do numbers in your tables, don't put, even if like, let's say I had 2 milliliters evaporate, don't put your units in the table because then it will mess up the graph. Just have the numbers, all right? So let's say, I'm just going to make up some data here. Let's say this is the number of milliliters that has evaporated so far. I'm just making this up. And okay, now I want to make a graph. I'm not using this table to put into my presentation, so I don't need to put borders and all that stuff. I'm not trying to make it look pretty. And I just highlight everything here and I go to insert chart. And let's hope it gives me what I want. Okay, now it gave me a bar graph here. I don't really want a bar graph. I think a line graph would be best so I can see how the amount that's evaporating is increasing. So I'm gonna choose, well, notice over here in setup, if I just choose chart type and I go down to line, there we go. This is what I want. It has yellow is the mineral water, blue is the salt water, and red is the tap water. Now notice here, I don't have anything on my y-axis or x-axis, and this title is not very descriptive. So I'm gonna actually change my title. And the title, so I'm gonna choose chart title, and I'm gonna choose, I'm gonna say evaporation rate for salt water, or maybe just for different types of water. Make sure I center that so it looks good. And then I'm gonna go to my horizontal axis title. That's under the x-axis. And I'm just gonna say this is the number of days. That's already centered, so that's good. And then my vertical axis title, I really need a title here because nobody knows what do these numbers mean, okay? This is amount of evaporation. And then to show my units, I'm going to put it in parentheses. Let's spell evaporation correctly. But milliliters is my units. And then you can see that's there on the y-axis so people know what 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10 mean. All right. Well, now I got my graph. And all I have to do, again, is Control C. Let me go back here. Let me get rid of this instructions. And then Control B for edit paste. Paste unlinked. There we go. So that's another example of how to do a graph. So I've shown you how to make a table. I've shown you how to make 2 different types of graphs. I'm going to include these. I'll give you these samples as well. Hopefully that helps to make sense of how to make a table, how to make a graph, and how to put it into your science fair presentation.